Tonight's episode is brought to you by The List. You just made it. Tonight on Ramblers Unleashed, Liv and Roxanne are the number one contenders. What does Baron think? What does the Rambler Complaint Department think about Jericho? Why is Max talking about MVP? All this and more next on Ramblers Unleashed.
Warning. This video contains super awesome content not suitable for people who don't enjoy super awesomeness. Viewer discretion advised.
The wrestling podcast that sets all other podcasts apart. Covering news from the world of WWE, AEW, TNA, and more. Your favorite weekly episodic podcast, Ramblers Unleashed, starts now.
All right, guys. Welcome to Ramblers Unleashed, your weekly episodic podcast for news from the world of WWE, AEW, TNA, and, well, this week, some news from our personal lives. Raw was in Dusseldorf this week, but the Ramblers are all at home. Well, not all of us. We saw a smart finish out of Gunther. We got new number one contenders in Liv and Roxanne, while the tag team champs have a new official name, and Punk defends against Balor in Belfast next week. Let's introduce the Ramblers. As you can see, we're short one tonight. Baron is on special assignment. He is working on congratulating Liv Morgan on becoming the number one contender for the women's tag team titles. He will be back with us next week. At the end of the show, we will talk about what's going to be different next week and what's going to be different going forward for a little while. But let's talk wrestling first, and then we'll deliver some bad news. Ladies and gentlemen, up next, the man who destroys kayfabe, the man who does video game streams, and sometimes forgets to unmute his mic. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Rambler Complaint Department, CM Styles.
What's going on, y'all? Good to be here. Can't wait to share the news later on. But yeah, I can't wait to talk some wrestling and other up-to-date news.
Well, and don't worry, because the way I have it set up for the end of the show for when we talk about all that is you're going to tell your part of it. So don't you worry. You're going to get your chance to speak tonight. All right. Up next, the other member of the Ramblers crew. For without you, we'd just be a couple idiots talking to each other on a video call. And, I mean, look at that face. Can you really say you want to sit here and just sit on a video call talking wrestling for a couple hours with that face? Come on. Nah.
He's right there.
Give it up for yourselves over there in the chat. You are the other member of the Ramblers Unleashed. Thank you.
But of course, if it wasn't for this man over here, we still wouldn't be doing this right now. Dizzy, we miss you. We can't wait for you to come back. And, you are Max's best friend. So with that being said, let's give it up to Chicago Max himself, Mr. Max.
Thank you. Yeah, let me just say, Dizzy, you have big shoes to fill. I cannot wait for you to come back. All right, let's talk about Raw last night. What are your thoughts on the new name for our current tag team champions? It has been made official. They are now known as Rio.
I missed out on a lot of stuff last night. I really wasn't home much. But the tag team name of Rio, I mean, it works. So it should be interesting to see where the tag team champs go with their new name.
Here's the thing. For me, it's no Kabuki Warriors, but it'll do. And real quick, Punk, when I want your opinion, I will ask Styles to give it to us. Thank you. How do you feel about the new number one contenders, Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez?
So it's great to see Liv Morgan back on top there, where she belongs. We know Baron is over there congratulating her as we speak. And Miss Roxy Perez, oh my God, she is such a top-notch character. Let me tell you, everyone was thinking about her being the instigator of the Judgment Day, and look how it's working out right now with her. So to see them as number one tag team champs, or number one contenders for the women's tag team champs, I mean, Judgment Day might be taking all the titles back eventually.
Real quick, unofficial sponsors, Strange Things Are Afoot at the Circle K. That's a Bill and Ted reference, and if you don't know that, get out of my chat. Listen, here's the thing. I am ecstatic about Liv and Roxanne being the number one contenders. I like it. If you were here last week, you know that I don't think this is the right direction for Liv following her return. I feel like there is a story in there that we should be exploring that I keep getting told. The same thing I tell you guys all the time, be patient. It's probably going to happen here soon. But I do like the fact that they're number one contenders. They are working well as a team right now, even though I don't agree with the direction. But I was a little thrown off because during the entire match, the commentary team was pushing the fact that Bayley and Lyra don't think they're being taken seriously as a tag team, and they think they should be taken seriously. And commentary said winning this match and becoming number one contenders would go a long way for them to be taken serious as a tag team. So I will say that the WWE actually surprised me by having Liv and Roxanne actually become the number one contenders instead of Bayley and Lyra. And for that, I want to say thank you, WWE, because it's not often you surprise me anymore. What about next week on Raw? We're going to have Balor taking on Punk for the World Heavyweight title.
So when it comes to that, I mean, we're finally going to get hopefully some ROH-like material with two guys that are pretty well aged at this point, very well seasoned into this industry. It's not two young fellas anymore. It's just older gents cutting promos, taking it to each other. And I mean, they cooked each other on the mic. So I did see that promo on YouTube. I missed a lot of the show. I did catch as much as the highlights as much as possible. But these two, I mean, when Punk cut that promo on him and talk about, you want to be champion, but every time I see you, you're always playing video games backstage, or basically like, doing everything Liv Morgan tell you. It was just he found a way to destroy him mentally without having to lift a finger. And now when this time comes next week, it's going to be a hell of a match, but it's definitely not. It won't be in Balor's favor, that's for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of plot twist down the road on this match.
Listen, Finn recently did an interview and he said that he felt like since he's been on the main roster, they have misused the Demon. In fact, we haven't even seen the Demon in how long? It's been a while.
It's been a few years. It's been quite a bit. Maybe since Bray Wyatt's era? Bray Wyatt's time is the last time we saw him.
I'm thinking that's right. Let me look it up. Before I finish that point, I did find it interesting that they both referred to him as the Prince during their promos last night. Because for those of you that don't know, his name over there at home, when he was wrestling there, was Prince Devitt. So they both kind of referred to him as the Prince last night while they were talking about next week's match.
I mean, there was a time where his Videotron actually had Prince Balor, and as a matter of fact, I think they even made mention of it with Damian Priest, where he called him the Prince. So it's interesting to see that they're bringing that persona kind of into the mix, because guys like Prince Balor or Finn Balor, might as well just call him Prince Balor at this time. But by the time he's done, he's going to wish he was a king. Or if he does win, he will be the king, because the king will have his crown, and that crown is the WWE Championship.
Well, I think that now might be a good time to bring the Demon back. I think we're going to be in his home next week, which is where he made the Demon popular in the first place. This was something you saw regularly there. I think next week is a good time to bring the Demon back, because it's a title match in his hometown. I mean, that's the only two reasons I need for this. And the last time we saw the Demon was WrestleMania 39 against Edge, yeah.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, you know what? I saw this way after, right before Edge retired from the WWE.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be that would be the right time, in my opinion, to bring back the Demon, and the Demon might actually help. Um, what about Gunther's finish? I called it a smart finish in the opening. I stand by that. What do you think?
If we're talking about the low blow finish, I mean, he's a heel.
No, no, no,
He
no,
is.
no, no, no. We're going to go back just a little before that. For those of you
Oh,
that did
I
not see the
did
main
not
event
do
last
that.
night on Raw, AJ Styles had Gunther in the calf crusher. The referee, so the camera is on this side, Gunther's head is here, and AJ has got the calf crusher over here. The referee was over on that side of them, right? Gunther brought his left arm around, tapped AJ's leg to tap out, but the referee didn't see it. AJ, thinking he won the match, lets Gunther go, gets up to celebrate, and the ref's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, he tapped out. I won." And the ref said, "I didn't see him tap out."
That's what that commotion was all about. See, I missed that part.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was always taught if you don't see it, you don't call it. You can be told about it, but you can't call it. For example, I was refereeing a Rowdy Night match one night, and he pulled his opponent's hair. And the fans told me he pulled his opponent's hair. The opponent's manager said he pulled his hair. So I asked Rowdy, I said, "Did you pull his hair?" Rowdy said, "Yeah, I pulled his hair. What are you going to do about it?" I didn't see it. I couldn't call it. I told him not to do it again because that's all I could do. The referee did not see the tap. That was smart on Gunther's part. He did the tap. AJ let go. Then he low blowed him, power bombed, and got the pin. Uh, smart heel work, ring psychology, in ring work, all of that was present. It was amazing.
I mean, that right there, that's what you call classic heel tactics, old school, like very, I would say like late 80s, early 90s heel fashion, if not earlier than that. But I didn't watch wrestling much anytime before the 70s because I wasn't born yet. So seeing anything in the 80s and 90s and a tactic like that was used, we as fans, what do? We boo the heel that does it. And I like the fact that he's probably the only guy on the roster that's actually capable of pulling all this off because he's a classic old school style wrestler, and it works.
Now, later on when we go to From the Desk of Max Magus, I'm going to talk about my favorite match ever, which if you've been watching this show, you know that my favorite match is Bret Hart versus Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. What a lot of you don't know is that my now third, because John Cena versus AJ blew this one down to number 3 and took the second place spot. My third favorite match is an NXT match. It was for the, I believe it was the UK title.
I don't remember.
Let's see. Yes, it was the WWE UK title that was on the line, and it was the guy then known as Walter and the guy then known as Pete Dunne. They were number 3 on the match or on the card. This is information to have for later. These two put on one hell of a show. Pete Dunne was doing the joint manipulation. Gunther was using his strength and power to his advantage. If you have not seen it, find it. Find it somewhere and watch it. I just Googled to confirm that it was the UK title and multiple videos popped up full match. Check it out. It's really worth your time. And it helps you to build the mystique of the man behind the heel, Gunther. This man has really worked hard to develop this character from way back then, and it's phenomenal. You should check it out. He is literally one of the smartest heels. He's one of the guys that has the most respect for this business. He's just great, and I look forward to what the future brings with Gunther. One more thing before we get into our stories. If you were watching SmackDown, you know that after some outside interference, we have a new undisputed champion. Drew McIntyre finally has a title with an audience that he didn't lose in 5 minutes. Now, I think this is great. They did not change Jacob Fatu. If you heard our story last week on this that we read, there were rumors that they were going to change his character and make him heel. They didn't do that. Jacob Fatu went out there and tried to get his revenge. Cody said, I appreciate what you're doing, but threw him out of the way. This is my fight. Jacob did not react well to that, as he doesn't, because he's not all there in the head. And Drew McIntyre was able to escape to win the Undisputed Championship. So congratulations, Drew, from all of us here at Ramblers, except Styles, because he doesn't really give a damn about whose fault it was.
Hey, you're absolutely right. I don't care whose fault it was. A win is a win. Drew took it any way he could get it. And let me tell you, it's been a long time coming. He dreamed that this day would come, and guess what? It came. Thank you, Jacob Fatu, for finally coming back. I'm glad that WWE Creative has decided on maintaining Jacob. As I see it right now, he's still loved by the crowd, but he's probably going to play a tweener role until Cody does return. There's reasons why Cody also lost the title, and if you know about it, Max, you're more than welcome to talk about it. If not, I'll be more than happy to explain why he.
Right.
So recently, he became a dad again. So he's getting that well-deserved time off. He's going to take some time off, as if making Street Fighter the movie wasn't time off right there. Now he's going to be taking more time off to be a family man, and this is great news for him. So enjoy the time without the strap when you come back. All you guys say is my dad is Dusty Rhodes, and you'll be back in the title lineup once again. So I can't wait for it. The American Nightmare, living the American dream.
Yeah, you know, I think it's great that he's getting time off for paternity leave. That's awesome. I wish more companies in the U.S. were like that. Let dads have some time off. I mean, we're not talking a couple of weeks. He's going to be gone for a little while. I'm not saying he's going to be gone for the next 6 months to a year, but he's going to be gone for a little while. And companies don't typically offer that. I think this is great that he works somewhere where he can do that. Congratulations to Cody and Brandy. We're happy for you. There's a video I watched last night, and I think it actually happened here in Denver, but I'm not sure. I know that the screen said Happy Holidays. The Titantron screen did, and it was Cody. He was in the ring, and he was getting the audience to sing Happy Birthday to Stu. If you don't know, Stu's the cameraman that John Cena is always praising when he's on his way to the ring. He's always doing something with him. Stu always did the rundown with him, all that. Cody got the audience to sing Happy Birthday to him, put him up on his shoulders, put the belt on him, put him up in the corner. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun to watch. There's one more thing I want to point out. There is a publication out there. I'm not going to name it. And you have heard us complain about Meltzer and his errors that he says, oh, no, we told you things might change. This publication is worse, in my opinion, than Meltzer. They posted an article saying that the fans turned on Cody and demanded that he never be made champion again. Now, that's fine. Yes, the fans in Germany are fans of Drew McIntyre, and things are different in Europe. They cheered for him and booed Cody. So if you were just a publication, yeah, you're right, Mir. He's not going to miss WrestleMania 41. There's no two ways about it. If you were literally just a kayfabe publication, it wouldn't matter. But you report on things like they are facts, like the Becky Lynch story and Michael Cole, where you said that Michael Cole was given an official warning, and you made it sound like you actually believed Cole was in trouble, and then you pointed out that Becky's playing her character very well. Listen, I'm all for you doing a great job writing a story that makes it seem like you're taking all this serious. But when you mix in there the fact that you know Becky's playing a character, now you've crossed over to the other side. You need to pick a side. You need to do a better job. You know who you are. I'm not going to tell everybody here because I don't want to give you any clicks, but do better. That's all I want to say. Guys, fans are something else. We talk about the fans around here all the time. Typically, we're complaining about the IWC or some take that got posted. Oh, speaking of some take that got posted, ladies and gentlemen, we are 11 days from Vince Russo's birthday. And tell you what, next week we're going to have a special celebration of Vince Russo. Don't you worry. Anyway, we talk about the fans once in a while. We usually complain about the IWC, something stupid a fan said. I mean, last week we talked about Muckraker and what he said about AJ Styles taking the WWE money and AJ calling it one of the stupidest things he's ever heard. Well, this time from Ringside News, we're talking about how the police were called after a wild fan brawl at Little Mania wrestling event in Murfreesboro, Illinois. Man, I mean, I could have had a show and a show that night. All right. The pro wrestling world is full of unpredictable events. Sometimes the real violence can be seen in the crowd instead of the ring. A night of wrestling at Little Mania Wrestling took a turn Saturday when a fight broke out among fans during the show at South Bar and Grill in Murfreesboro, Illinois. A video of the ordeal was shared online, and Ringside News obtained a copy of the unedited video. The January 10th event promoted midget violence throughout the night inside a mini wrestling ring set up in the bar's back room. The event drew a full crowd and continued as scheduled while the incident unfolded off to the side. This was a sold-out event, and some fans who were at the show reported that tensions were high among the crowd due to the packed house and how the venue handled that amount of people. According to witnesses, an apparent disagreement between several people in the crowd escalated during the show. It's unclear what started the fight, but things escalated quickly. And at least one man and one woman were removed from the venue as staff intervened and separated those involved. One security guard had to pick up a man and literally carry him out, which you can actually see in the video. One person commented on the video to say, hearsay is, it's two men fighting over a woman that they both have been messing around with. Imagine that. Their location is the same town in Illinois as well. Police were called to the scene, arrived while the event was still ongoing. Multiple officers were present inside and outside the venue. At this time, it is not known whether any arrests were made or if charges will be filed. While the wrestling matches remained the focus of the event, the bar fight took center stage for a portion of the night. The show continued afterward and concluded as planned. No official statements have been released by the police, the venue, or event organizers, and no injuries have been confirmed. So listen, before we get into this, let me remind you that when you go to a wrestling show, you're not there to be part of the show. That includes, but is not limited to, putting your hands on the wrestlers, impeding the wrestlers in any way, shape, or form, even if it's not by putting your hands on them, picking a fight with other fans. This is important because picking a fight with another fan distracts from the show. You are not the show. You are there to see the show. If you have problems, take it outside. Styles, before I give any further thoughts, what you got?
I mean, you're not wrong. If you want to throw hands with someone, take it outside the door, the gate, whatever you want to call it. Do your business out there. Come back and enjoy the show afterwards if you're not arrested and charged by that time. When all hell breaks loose, especially inside an indoor venue, let alone outdoor, make sure there's a good amount of security around. Now, hence, this was Little League Wrestling. So the question was it a short fight? But I can't make too many puns out of this without pissing people off. But
what we do know is it was a short segment,
inch by inch, but or in this case, centimeter by centimeter. I don't know how. I'm not going to have a job after this one. But yeah, it's where but yeah, when it comes to venues and hostile fans and either putting your hands on another fan, staff, talent, whatever, that shit does not fly. If you do have an issue, keep it to yourself, leave the venue, or complain to somebody within the management that's running the show and take it there. I mean, there's better ways to resolve this than to give the fans a secondary show to go with the primary. Now I could see if that match or whatever sucked and they were like, all right, I'm going to amp this up by 5-6 centimeters, but God, this short jokes are my favorite thing. So I'm the shortest of my family at this point when it comes to my son. So yeah, Land of the Giants. Ask the little leaguers, but yeah, if you're going to go there and you're going to cause havoc, you're going to cause some kind of chaos, disruption, distraction, just don't show up. I mean, everyone else is there to have a good time, to be entertained. These guys are out there working their asses off, and you find a way to shit on their parade, and it don't sit well with me. I mean, you see it on TV once in a while with other sporting events, let alone a Raw or a SmackDown or even TNA and AEW. I mean, the fan will get out of control, but of course they're a bigger product and they're going to have amped up security. This right here is basically just a tiny little show and probably lacks security. So things like this tend to get out of hand. But I don't think shit like that should be happening, especially if there's kids around or, whatever.
Well, it was in a bar, so there probably weren't kids around.
Okay, so there's no kids. All right, so it's a bar. So a couple drinks in, and someone felt like the bigger man. God damn it.
Listen, whether the hearsay is true or not, that is the biggest thing those fans witnessed all night.
Well, having an eye on detail, short and sweet.
And listen, if the hearsay is true, perhaps you guys shouldn't have all three been at a wrestling show together. And I'm looking at you, lady. If you're messing with both these guys, you probably shouldn't have hung out with them at the same place. Just a thought. All right, guys, it is the end of an era. We talked a little bit about this last week, but we talked about it from the perspective of Ciampa. Tonight, from Ringside News, Johnny Gargano quietly shifted the singles star role as the Ciampa situation gets real. The real story coming out of the Tommaso Ciampa update isn't just about Ciampa, it's about what WWE is already doing with Johnny Gargano. Latest reporting suggests the company is actively moving forward as if DIY is done and Gargano is no longer being treated as part of a tag team behind the scenes. That's a major shift for someone who has been almost exclusively positioned in tag team programs for the past few years. During the January 11th, 2026 Fightful Select Q&A show, Sean Ross Sapp addressed the Ciampa situation after a fan asked for more information. While he explained that people close to Ciampa are being careful out of respect for his privacy, he also made it clear that the reporting matches what he's been hearing. He explained the situation like this. So the people I spoke to wanted to respect his privacy as it related to the specifics. But what I've heard was that Bodyslam.net reported it correctly, or they're at least right on track with what I've been hearing. But the bigger takeaway came immediately after when Sapp described how WWE is currently handling Gargano. He's not been backstage of late, and Johnny Gargano is especially or effectively a singles competitor. That line speaks volumes. Gargano has spent most of the last 3 years presented as part of DIY with his identity closely tied to tag team wrestling. Now, with Ciampa absent and not expected to return before his contract expires, WWE appears to be quietly repositioning Gargano on his own. On television, Gargano has already been drifting in that direction. He's currently tied into interactions involving Nathan Fraser and Axiom, which complicates things even further since that story was seemingly built around a tag dynamic. If Ciampa truly isn't coming back, that program may never get the payoff fans expected. This also puts Gargano in an uncertain situation and a potentially interesting spot. WWE could lean fully into him as a singles babyface again, something that hasn't been seriously explored on the main roster despite his track record in NXT. Or he can end up floating without a clear direction now that his long-term partner is out of the picture. Either way, this isn't just about Ciampa leaving. It's about WWE already moving on creatively and restructuring Gargano's role without making a public announcement. Look, he's not called Johnny Wrestling for nothing. It's not like he doesn't know how to be a singles wrestler. It's not like he doesn't have the skills to do this on his own. DIY is great. I love DIY. Ciampa, we're going to miss you. DIY has been such a big part of my wrestling experience for so long that it's going to be weird to not have DIY. but we still have Johnny wrestling, and they brought Candice LeRae back to work with him. A while back, she got moved back down to NXT, but now she is in Gargano's corner. Actually, I think this is setting up for something down the road. I really think we're going to see the mixed tag match tournament again, because what do we have? We have Aleister Black and Zelina Vega working together on the roster. CM Punk and AJ Lee working together on the main roster. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, when he's not injured, working together on the main roster. Now you throw Gargano and Candice LeRae in there. You have another married couple that can do this. And this is a big if because he's still under contract elsewhere. But if Buddy Matthews returns soon, you can have Rhea and Buddy Matthews as part of the tag team tournament. At the end of the day, this is going to be a weird switch, but I think Gargano can handle it. I think he's a very talented wrestler, and I think he's got this in the bag, Styles.
And you forgot one more tag team that would be great in this whole thing, Montez Ford.
And Bianca Belair, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, things like this, anything's a possibility in WWE. When it comes to Ciampa coming, basically it's going to force him into some kind of retirement. Because at the end of the day, he's got multiple neck injuries, a surgery or two on his neck already so far. I mean, at his age, I'm pretty sure he's a little bit younger than I am, but the time he's put in, the in-ring work, the travel, has aged his body and his looks drastically. And in the end, he needs to heal up. He needs to heal badly. We've talked about things like neck injuries and any kind of injury, let alone concussions and CTE. But at the end of the day, you got to think about your personal health. And if you don't do that and you keep going out there doing what you do, it's going to end up going from not just career ending, but life threatening. And if this is a true statement on it, which we know it is, and he doesn't come back, I mean, Gargano, he can always team back up with his wife, or like you said, make him a singles competitor and probably wind up lost in the shuffle. And if you know anything about the WWE's history, they got a big track record of losing count of who they have on the roster and how to use them properly. I mean, yes, you have SmackDown, you have Raw, you have NXT. I mean, you can only put on so many shows and put these guys on certain parts of the roster that they may or may not fit into there. But I would love to see an intergender tag team tournament down the road. You mentioned Seth Rollins. Whenever he's not injured, he's great when he does pairings with his wife. CM Punk and AJ Lee, they'd be great in that whole scenario as well. I mean, the ball's in the WWE's court right now, and they just got to get a handle of how they're going to handle doing things with Gargano without Tommaso being there anymore. So hopefully they have an idea.
So to cover something you said, he's 40 years old right now. He'll be 41 in May. What I did learn recently is his wife is actually 6 years older than him. She is currently 46, and she just turned 46 not even a month ago. So we wish Tommaso well, and I look forward to what Gargano does without his partner. The Miz has been very entertaining over the years, but this story really made me laugh. From Fightful, The Miz, honestly, every time there's a release, I'm like, oh no, is it me? The Miz reflects on wrestlers, including his close friend Dolph Ziggler, being released from WWE. During his 20-year career with WWE, Miz has shared a locker room with wrestlers from all over the world and has also seen his fair share of releases from talents, WWE contracts, including some of his close friends. While speaking on the latest episode of Insight with Chris Van Vliet, The Miz spoke about releases in WWE, noting that he still worries if he'll be getting released when one is announced. He also shared how he was affected by Dolph Ziggler's WWE release. Honestly, every time there's a release, I'm like, oh no, is it me? Dolph Ziggler's release was a tough one for me to see him go because it was kind of like the last of my really core group of friends. I have friends in the locker room, but that was like my core group of friends. I've had such great matches with Dolph too, like him putting his career up and me the IC title, that whole IC title ring. He was a big part of elevating that title too. And so to see him go is tough, but that's the name of this business. It happens. Those types of things happen. For me, this is going to sound very cocky and arrogant. I know how valuable I am. I know how good I am. And whether the audience sees it or not, I know people know. If you've wrestled me, you know. And so, yes, there's always in the back of your mind, oh, is it me? But then there's also that other part that goes, man, I've done a lot in this business and I still got more. Uh, the part that made me laugh is every time another round of releases comes up, the Miz goes, oh, am I on the list? Am I getting cut this year? And listen, is it possible? Sure, we've seen some surprising names get cut in the release rounds over the last few years, but I wouldn't call it likely, Miz. You have proven your worth. You have earned your spot, and I think you're going to be around for several more years at least. Styles?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'll be honest. I'll call it as I see it. He is probably the most protected man in WWE roster today. Hence, his history with WWE has been interesting. We're talking about the guy who's been banned from locker room show to show, kicked off tour buses and everything else. And then years down the road, he's given a direct speech, a direct shoot to another superstar that got himself fired because of allegations for the same exact reason he did, minus what the allegations were, because that would never happen in the Miz's world. But the Miz, he's got it good. I mean, he's a company guy. You know, he came in as a punk looking character. You know, he was this oorah gung ho guy trying to promote, what was it? What was that?
The Diva Search.
Divas contest. Hold on, let me get my notes. Here's the number right here that you got to call. 1-800 blah blah. Yeah. Todd Grisham can tell you all about that one. As a matter of fact, Shawn Michaels can tell you on the night of Raw. But yeah, you know, the Miz. I've never had anything against the Miz. The Miz is one of probably the most entertaining guys in the WWE. You can love him or hate him, but no matter what he does, he goes out there and he puts on a 5-star product. I mean, the guy can cut a promo. He's one of the safest workers. As he got older, now he started dealing with light injuries, but it was nothing life-sustaining or career-ending. But on top of that, he's a straight-to-DVD character, the Marine. So, I mean, the guy, he's got the biggest resume under his belt. So even if he were to get released, he'd be able to get out into the acting world and provide for his wife and kids. And I'll tell you, he has 2 beautiful daughters that he takes care of, and you know, he's a devoted father, devoted husband. He's living a good life, and of course, they did a reality show with them. He was comfortable with that because, what was it, The Real World or Road Rules, whatever the hell he did on MTV.
Yeah,
So that was the start of his whole legacy. So when he's done in the WWE, he won't be done, but he'll have so many doors opening right when he's done. I thought he was going to be Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat, to be honest, but he should have been. He fits.
My opinion.
So,
I mean, look, Johnny Cage is a self-obsessed star who thinks that there is no better actor or performer or fighter on the planet, and you literally just described Miz. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, I'm not going to rip on Carl Urban because he's one of my favorite actors, but I'm sorry, he's not Johnny Cage. Nothing personal, Carl. Loved you and the boys. But yeah, Dread 2, underrated. Gotta watch it again.
Yeah. Look, you mentioned the Diva Search and how he read it off his wrist. It wasn't the reading that bothered me. It was that even though he was reading it, he still managed to mess it up. So it really took me a long time after that to warm up to the Miz.
Yeah, I mean, it took a lot for everybody, especially when he made his in-ring debut. I mean, look at how he came in as a face starting out in the business. He was the jobber. He was the enhancement talent, but he had a personality. And then they ended up, pairing him with John Morrison down the road. And that's what aimed his career to bigger heights.
Right. And here's the thing. What finally warmed me up to the Miz and realized that maybe this guy does have some talent was he was on Conan O'Brien one night, and they were talking, and Conan asked him, "Can you cut me a promo just out of the blue?" And Miz cut this promo about the Ginger Ninja, and it was actually amazing. And from that night on, I actually was a fan of the Miz because at that point I realized that what was holding him back was writers. Bob Saget, huge fan of Bob Saget. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
But if you ever listen to what he had to say on America's Funniest Home Videos, and I mean, Full House is obviously scripted, but you watch those shows and it's like, man, this is just tame. Why is this so tame? And then you go watch him on Comic Relief, and it's like, oh my God, Danny Tanner said a bad word. He said more. Oh my God, that's a tirade full of bad words. When you take the restraints off of someone like Bob Saget or The Miz, magic can happen. And that was where the problem came in, is they were writing him these tame little speeches, but when he got to put a little more personality into what he was telling us, it got better. And that's important. So, all right. There have been some rumors about WWE being sold, which seems kind of quick considering it hasn't been that long since TKO bought them. But from Ringside News, WWE's value to TKO makes a sale to Saudi Arabia highly unlikely. Speculation about WWE potentially being sold to Saudi Arabia has picked up traction in recent days, but the business reality behind the scenes tells a very different story. Sean Ross Sapp addressed the rumor directly during a Fightful Select Q&A when asked whether there was any truth to claims about a possible sale. His response was straightforward and left little room for interpretation. Not anytime soon. WWE is a huge money earner for TKO right now. Yeah, ever since they jacked up the prices. A sale doesn't make sense unless it's too good to be true. Unless it's a too good to be true offer. The comment cut straight to the core of the issue. WWE's current role within TKO Group Holdings is simply too valuable to walk away from under normal circumstances. The company has become a major revenue driver, making the idea of selling it off counterproductive unless an offer came in that was impossible to refuse. He also had a perspective on how timing would have mattered in a different era. Funny enough, if Saudi tried to buy WWE in 2016, they probably could have. For now, TKO is happy to chip away at their debt by making money hand over fist. The takeaway is clear. Despite ongoing partnerships and major events held in Saudi Arabia, ownership is not on the table based on the current business landscape. WWE is positioned as too profitable, too stable, and too strategically important to be moved anytime soon. And listen, I'm not going to lie. Good night, Punk. We'll see you later. There have been missteps, but overall, we are in the middle of one of the best eras WWE has ever had. And while that is purely my opinion, I think the facts show that. We've had better stories. We didn't have these gimmick stories that Vince used to give us all the time, which at the time we enjoyed. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking away from my enjoyment of it. But we've had some great. KO and the New Day are a really good example because the way they presented those stories, it was hard to decide, do I feel bad for them or am I mad for about what they're doing? They made you actually feel for the characters, like really have a connection to them. And as we're going to talk about in our next segment, connection is important. It really is. And that's something that I think WWE has done right. And there's people that'll tell you, well, I feel a connection when I'm watching AEW. No, you just think you do. See, if you had grown up in the era that I grew up in, you thought you had a connection. You felt the connection. But the stories are far more relatable now. And that makes them so much better for me. And AEW just doesn't have that. They have great matches. They have great talent. I'm not arguing that. But they just don't have the same emotional feel, in my opinion, that the WWE has. Styles?
Yeah, I mean, connections are important. I mean, between not just the workers but the fans. One of the biggest things is being over, connecting with the fans, psychology, chemistry, whatever you may call it. I mean, it just without some kind of connection, you're going to be either loved, you're going to be hated. I mean, you can always go back to the '90s days of ECW. If a fan didn't like you, no matter how much you tried to connect, they would turn their back to you. Working relations backstage, that's another big important thing for connections. I mean, it's topical skills, as I would call it. Good working relation, good standing between your employer and the buyers, i.e., the fans. Um, I'll always see it as, you know, a top dollar investment in their career and their life. If you can't manage to, go out there, it doesn't matter if you're cutting a promo, putting on a good match. If you're not connecting in some way, in some fashion, you're wasting your time in the business and find something that's more suitable. But connections are always important to have because that connection could save your career down the road.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that we're gonna see a sale anytime soon. But remember, the money that the Saudi prince brings is huge, and they did say if the and as Ted DiBiase said, everybody has a price.
Oh yeah. Well, when it comes to TKO, yeah, you said about profitable. They're making money more now than they ever have. Didn't think about this at the moment. Look what I was gonna do. I was gonna go to wrestling back in December, and it was almost sold out. And of course, they don't give tickets to veterans anymore. This is like a big thing for a military-related area. Um, I don't see the deal being solid. I possibly never will. I mean, they're going to work relationships for future pay per views or PLEs, but when it comes to that, that's a different story. But I don't think we'll ever see the Saudis own majority of the WWE where TKO is making the biggest money. And
Yeah, and part of that's the cost and why they're making money. And here's my thing: if they're really making as much as they say they are, how much debt could they possibly still be in?
so I'm glad you said that. We're talking in the millions. I was actually reading up on that, and I think it was like double digits in the millions. And because they made a big deal when they bought out from under Vince, and I was like, how much longer are they gonna? But what they got to do is they're not just doing just business, but they're doing economics behind it. You got to go per year, things like cost of living and everything else. They got to go by that, and when they talk about economics, the numbers just tend to spike. Now, you'll use that term capitalism or you're going to use that term greed. And that's how most of these businesses will run that. As someone who studied a little bit of economics back in the day, this right here, it's going to be greed going into debt because sooner or later they're either going to cap out or the fans are going to tap out because they're going to no longer be able to afford to go to to these shows anymore, and it's going to start bottom line in the product itself. But if they're in more debt than they need to be, and it does require selling, my hot take, I wouldn't sell it to an overseas product, but if they have enough money that they say that we're going to take, we're going to buy it. Don't just sell it to someone that says, "Oh, well, we wash the product, but we don't know how to run the product." That's the most important thing. I don't care how big of a fan they are. I know they have WWE Saudi Arabia, and, their own PR team over there, but how do they do things versus how we do things? In the end, you give it to a country that has different rules and restrictions and regulations, and you're going to have shows over here where the women are going to be 110% covered up, and it's going to screw everything up as well. So how you manage to do business with foreign entities is it's going to play a pivotal point down the road, and it's going to be a crash and burn, lose control kind of thing. If you understand how international laws work. It's most important to actually study and learn from. So,
All right, guys, let's move on. There's something about a connection with the crowd. Tonight, from the desk of Max Mages, we're going to talk about a story that I found on Wrestling Headlines. In professional, the headline is MVP explains the most overlooked skill in pro wrestling. We've been talking about this all night. It's been a common theme through almost everything we've talked about. So tonight we're going to take from the desk of Max Mages and talk about this. In professional wrestling, the difference between a move landing and a moment connecting often comes down to what happens after the impact. The idea was the focus of a recent discussion by MVP, who broke down why performance, not athleticism alone, separates good wrestlers from great ones. Speaking on his podcast, Marking Out, MVP explained that the most effective storytelling happens through subtle cues, how a wrestler reacts, moves, and carries themselves. He pointed to a lesson often emphasized by Vince McMahon. Faces communicate emotion faster than words. For masked wrestlers, however, that responsibility shifts entirely to posture and motion. Without facial expression to rely on, every reaction must be exaggerated through physical behavior to make the audience feel what the performer is feeling. MVP highlighted luchadores as master of this craft, singling out Rey Mysterio as a prime example. According to MVP, Mysterio doesn't just sell damage, he invites the crowd into it, making pain readable and sympathy unavoidable. That dynamic, MVP said, directly affects how opponents should work. When a wrestler is that beloved, restraint becomes a weapon. Even the smallest contact can generate enormous heat if the injured star is given space to react. He contrasted that experience with working other fan favorites, including Jeff Hardy, noting that the same principle applies. The takeaway, MVP argued, is that wrestling at its highest level isn't about constant motion or flashy offense. It's about timing, awareness, and letting the audience emotionally process what they're seeing. When that rhythm clicks, the match stops feeling rehearsed and starts feeling alive, and that, to MVP, is where wrestling truly becomes art. If you've ever wondered why certain matches feel unforgettable while others blur together, this is a big part of the answer. Wrestling has always rewarded performers who understand reaction as much as execution. From the territory era through the attitude era and into today's TV-driven product, the wrestlers who lasted were the ones who knew how to slow things down and let the audience emotionally process what they were seeing. MVP's point is an abstract theory. It reflects a long-standing industry truth that selling, especially through body language, is what turns moves into moments and opponents into villains. This also explains why wrestlers like Rey Mysterio and Jeff Hardy have remained crowd magnets across generations. Their ability to communicate vulnerability creates instant investment, which in turn dictates how their matches must be worked. Smart heels don't rush those moments, they amplify them. For fans, understanding this changes how you watch wrestling. You start noticing why certain performers draw louder reactions with less effort and why restraint often creates more drama than constant action. Wrestling isn't just about what happens, it's about how long the feeling lasts. And I will tell you before I get into what I wrote, when I would come out at a wrestling show, whether I had a microphone in my hand or not, the minute I got in the ring, fans knew I was probably about to speak, and you heard the boos for Dom. Those were definitely louder. I'm not trying to brag and say I got louder boos, but it was as deafening. It truly was, and that was a big deal for me because that meant that even though I was the bad guy, I made that connection. They felt that raw emotion that that you feel when you have a connection, and that connection is the lifeblood of this business. And there are some moves out there that just grab us and we're hooked. The Soul Snatcher is one of those for me. But what always pulls me in is something that is unexpected, like the first time The Undertaker sat up, or the way Owen Hart would do a backflip when he was clotheslined, or even the way Flair would do that fall flat on his face with style. The moves are great, but telling a story with your body, that's the true talent. My all-time favorite match is Brother versus Brother, WrestleMania 10, Bret and Owen. Those two told a story, It wasn't just the moves they performed, it was the reactions they gave, the selling they did, the looks when something didn't work out the way they thought. For example, I went for a pin. He kicked out after two. That look that you see on that face. Conveying emotion through reactions is far more entertaining and enthralling than just going through the moves. One of the reasons that Heyman is one of my all-time favorite managers is you can see the story of the match in his facial features. No, really, check it out sometime. At the end of the day, you can go out and flawlessly perform your moves and have it still be a terrible match. Or you can go out there and react, sell, have a couple of slips, but still have one of the best matches of the year. It's all about that connection, that invoking of emotion that you have in that match. If you can make that audience feel the story, they're going to forgive a couple of slips because the rest of the match, the rest of that feeling that they get, that's going to make up for it. So as you're going out there, if you're getting into this business, first off, a couple of things that I would like to point out. First off, learn that lesson about using your facial features and whatnot. The other thing you can do is there is a guy out there named Rob Risen. I've known this man for many years. I've talked about him here on the show once in a while. He is a good dude. He's a great wrestler. You have probably seen him on NXT, and you have probably seen him on AEW. If you haven't, I suggest you go search his matches because this guy is pretty damn talented. He was also part of a one of those video things that it wasn't like a full show. Anyway, he was doing the Unholy Reverend, and he had Vicky Guerrero as one of his nuns. Check that out as well. But he's got a book out. It just came out. I mean, he's written a couple of books, but he's got a new book out. If you're trying to get into the business, look his book up. It's called In Demand Indie. It's the name on the title is Rob Kimball, but his name is Risen. Trust me, if you want into the business, check out that book. Styles, do you have any thoughts before we go ahead and move on to my next story?
I mean, you nailed it when it comes to talent, facial expressions, especially like you said, the ones that wear masks. You got to use body emotions. You got to use the psychology to hype up the crowd. Heels, they're going to do what they do best. It's going to be mean mugging and and using facial verbal abuse to absorb into the crowd to piss them off and have them move you where their faces where they got to throw more energy and more charisma into their reactions. I mean, it's an important skill set to have because that is a make or break in your career. If you go out there and you don't give any facial reaction whatsoever, the crowd's not going to know what to do. They're going to like, who is this guy and why is he like? It is basically, are you on like the broadside of a barn? Are you dull or something? Like, throw some character into that face. But yeah, I mean, what you said right there was just completely spot on. So without characteristics, I mean, you're just another created wrestler out there with no personality.
I mean, if I looked like the creative wrestler, that would probably be bad.
Cody Rhodes.
All right, guys. TNA has quietly changed the card for, well, Courtney mentioned it, the upcoming AMC debut. From Ringside News, TNA stars quietly become free agents after their contracts expire. One of the most loyal factions may be officially done with the company. According to PW Insider on January 13th, 2026, TNA is no longer advertising the previously announced X Division Championship match between Leon Slater and Myron Reed for the January 15th broadcast in Dallas. While Slater is still featured in official press releases and tune-in graphics, Reed has been completely removed from all promotional materials, raising eyebrows just days ahead of the premiere. The update adds serious weight to the speculation that's been building since October 2025, when the Rascals, Zachary Wentz, Trey Miguel, and Myron Reed, aired frustrations on TNA Impact about not being booked for Bound for Glory. In that same segment, Wentz revealed their contracts were set to expire at the end of 2025. Despite their long-standing presence and deep ties to the company, none of the trio made the pay-per-view card. Fast forward to today, and the signs are unmistakable. It's now being said that TNA did not exercise extension options on the contracts of both Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel. Myron Reed, meanwhile, has quietly updated his Twitter bio to label himself a free agent. As for Desmond Xavier, who had recently appeared on TNA programming, sources confirm he was never under a formal contract. While all 4 Rascals members are still listed on the official TNA roster page, sources within the company declined to comment on their current status, further suggesting the group may no longer be under any contractual obligations to the promotion. Although new agreements can always be reached, the decision to remove Reed from the advertised title match without any official announcement suggests that the original bout is off and that the Rascals may already be finished with TNA. Okay, a couple things to unpack here. If I remember correctly, it was if I remember correctly, it was Zachary Wentz that actually lost his job. No, was it? I thought it was. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think Zachary Wentz actually lost his job with the WWE for a domestic dispute that he actually got arrested for. So I was always a little confused that TNA brought him in there to work. But honestly, I mean, usually it doesn't make TV unless the company wants it to make TV. So if they were out there airing their grievances, it was probably supported by TNA. So I don't really know that that's a reason, but maybe they were pointing out their contracts were up because they knew that negotiations were going nowhere. Either way, I mean, the Rascals have entertained TNA fans for the last few years, and on one level, I am sorry to see that they didn't work out some kind of deal. It does kind of bother me a little bit that the advertised title match quietly got changed. They didn't make any kind of announcement that it was changing. They just put out new graphics without telling anybody. That's really what bothers me about this. You know, I get it. You decided to go a different direction, but why not make the announcement that the title match is not going to go forth as originally planned? We will let you know what we plan to do for the debut on AMC. You don't even have to mention Myron's name. You know, you don't have to come out and say, hey, these guys are no longer on contract. You don't have to do any of that. You just say, hey, due to unforeseen circumstances, this match will not continue as scheduled, but all cards are subject to change. We'll see you on our debut. Styles?
Yeah, in scenarios like this, planning ahead is always mandatory or advised. When it comes to either rescheduling the match, canceling the match, whatever it may be, such and such contractual agreements or, you know, grievances towards it. I mean, that kind of puts a company in a kind of a chokehold in a way. You know, I personally haven't really watched TNA. God knows how long. The only reason I was watching it for a while was because, well, when we say his name, he appeared, and now he's over on the WWE brand. So that's one less thing that I watch. But we are getting them on TV here soon, so I might get back into watching them again. But in a scenario like this, when it's a tough position, it's a tough spot for any company, especially say TNA. Does it hurt the business? Does it impact the business? I mean, what does it do for the superstars as well? I mean,
it impact the business? I see what you did there.
I mean, I guess you could say they can cross the line.
I mean, they're down for glory, but we should probably keep all of our puns a little short.
We did with that little league wrestling earlier, so man, look at that. We're crossing everything over tonight.
We're going to get X division if we keep this up.
X out of everything.
All right.
Indeed.
All right. You all of you, just made the list. Destroying kayfabe, powered by Ringside News. Why losing Chris Jericho would hit AEW's foundation and not just its roster. The latest Chris Jericho speculation may have started with WWE, but the real story isn't about Raw, Netflix teases, or cryptic wording. The bigger issue is what happens to AEW if Jericho actually leaves. And according to Jim Ross, the damage would be real. The rumor mill exploded after WWE appeared to tease Jericho for the January 5th, 2026 episode of Monday Night Raw. PW Insider quickly shut that down, reporting that Jericho wasn't scheduled, wasn't backstage, wasn't even on the East Coast. PW Insider has told Jericho was never slated for the show and is actually in Los Angeles this week. They later clarified the break down the walls line was tied to a Stranger Things theme, not a wrestling callback. For those who were incorrectly piecing Adam Pearce making a reference to breaking walls down, that was obviously a smartly played reference to that series having the wall into the upside down dimension. So the WWE part of the story fizzled, but the question remains: if Jericho is done with AEW, who actually suffers? Jim Ross didn't dodge that question on grilling GAR. He addressed it directly and painted a clear picture of what AEW would be losing, not just a performer, but a pillar of the company. I think Jericho is he's such a valuable member of AEW. Him leaving would hurt the brand to a degree, no doubt. You can't lose a talent like Chris Jericho and say that, oh, well, we'll just move on. It doesn't matter. We got other guys that are ready to step up, and I hope that's true. But the bottom line of it is he's got options, and that's a smart guy. That's not framed as nostalgia. That's Ross acknowledging that Jericho's value isn't easily replaced, even in a stacked roster. He's talking about someone who contributes creatively, mentors talent, and shapes the product in ways viewers don't always see. Ross went further, explaining why Jericho remains relevant when others fade out. You know, I've said here before, the one thing that impresses me about Jericho is that he's not afraid to reinvent himself and throw a different log on the fire to see how it burns. That adaptability is exactly why Jericho has stayed central to every company he's worked for. In AEW's case, it's also why his absence wouldn't feel like a normal roster change. It would feel like losing infrastructure. Jericho hasn't appeared on AEW television since April of 2025 and skipped the World's End pay-per-view on December 31st. He's also leaned into the mystery when asked about WWE rumors, responding on a live stream with, "You never know. You never know." That uncertainty is enough to keep speculation alive, but Ross's comments make one thing clear. If Jericho's AEW run is truly over, the impact won't be subtle. See what they did there? It won't just affect storylines. It affects leadership, creative depth, locker room guidance, and the overall identity of the brand. AEW has survived talent departures before, but Jericho is different. He helped launch the company, carried major programs in its early years, and continued to evolve alongside it. Losing him isn't just losing a name, it's losing experience, structure, and influence that's hard to replace. Now, before I turn this over to Styles, I do want to say, yes, he was one of the OG for AEW. He helped start the company. He helped build the company. He really made it entertaining for me the first couple of years they were around. When Cody left, who was also one of the OG AEW guys, that kind of hurt a little bit, but it wasn't until Tony Khan really took over creative loudly, publicly, and 100% that for me things started to fall apart. And I think if you lose Jericho, you lose a part of what made you who you are and who you were. And honestly, since he hasn't been around since April of 2025, that may have already happened, Styles.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to someone like Chris Jericho, it's hard to put a price on him because the guy is he's more than just valuable. He's priceless. You said earlier, in the words of $1 Million Man, everyone's got a price, but in this case, this guy is priceless. Him leaving the brand is definitely a big blow to AEW. Hopefully, TK snorts enough booger sugar to kiss his ass and beg him to stay and remain in the company until it's time to fully retire, or else he'll be making a big impact somewhere else. Definitely will break the walls down wherever he may go. And I mean, a guy, he's got over 30 years of in-ring experience and beyond the veteran of the business. I mean, he was the Lionheart, the Ayatollah Rock and Rolla. He was Y2J in Save Us Y2J. What else was he? The Painmaker, the savior of wrestling. I mean, this guy, he's reinvented himself in many ways that no one will be able to, fill those boots. It don't matter if you're from the United States, it doesn't matter from Mexico, Canada, Japan, wherever you may be. There will never be another Chris Jericho. This guy has given us everything from ECW to WCW to the WWF/WWE. We would have got him in TNA back in mid 2000s, but deals didn't fall through, and we end up seeing him just return to WWE before he ends up being one of the OGs to AEW. He has done so much for that company. He's done so much for Japan. He's been all around the world. He has done it all, seen it all, and it doesn't matter where he goes. But for AEW, they better hope to hold on for as long as humanly possible. Without that, AEW will become a lost cause. So hopefully, TK gets his head out of his ass for a little bit, touches a little bit of grass, and lays off whatever he's got in his pocket. So,
well, listen, we've made a few puns tonight about Impact and whatnot as we've been discussing this. The rumors out there right now, a lot of rumors were about WWE, but there's also new rumors that he might go to TNA. Now, here's the thing. There is a prestigious crossover championship thing, and only a handful of wrestlers have done it. Jericho was the first, holding the undisputed WWE Universal Championship and later the AEW World Championship. Moxley, who's a former WWE champion, multi-time AEW World Champion. Omega held the WWE Championship as part of the Elite in NJPW, then signed with AEW, and he's held the AEW World Championship. Bryan Danielson, former WWE World Heavyweight Champion and prominent AEW wrestler. Christian Cage, former WWE World Heavyweight Champion and current AEW World Champion. Adam Cole, former NXT Champion and former AEW World Champion. And CM Punk, multi-time WWE Champion and former AEW World Champion. What did you not hear on that list? There is not one wrestler who has ever held the WWE, one of the WWE main titles, the AEW main title, and the TNA main title. So the rumors that he might go to TNA would allow him to, again, be the first person in pro wrestling to hold all three of those titles, WWE, TNA, and AEW. So I think that right now, as respectable journalists, we are going to say that our opinions, because that's all they are, because nobody knows anything. It's all speculation at this point. Mm-hmm. But our opinions, at least mine, is that I think there's a good chance Jericho does seek out, even if it's temporary, a TNA championship or a TNA contract to get a TNA championship to give him the prestige of being the only person to hold the major title for all three of those companies. So there's that to look forward to as well, Styles.
Yeah, and since you said that, right now, TNA and WWE are still collabing pretty well. So guess who could show up in WWE and TNA at separate times? So either way, no matter what company you put them in, if it's not AEW, you're going to see him in both brands, and that will make things interesting, especially if he gets one TNA World Title run. Get him in before Mania. Make him TNA World Champion, and guess what we can have at WrestleMania? We can do a triple threat this year. I hate to say it. We can do a Royal Rumble, and book a future match. But at WrestleMania, I would like to see champion versus champion versus champion. Unless you want to just try to do TNA World Champion versus the WWE World Champion. But
Or,
I'd like to up the stakes a little.
or we actually do a fatal 4-way.
So the winner of the Rumble plus all three champs. No?
No. World Heavyweight Champion, Undisputed Champion, TNA Champion, NXT Champion.
Ooh, could do that too. But
I think it'd be a fun match.
now the question is, imagine if you do that, what happens to the winner of the Royal Rumble? What do they get? That's the only thing that makes this kind of, because we all know the tradition.
You put someone like Ellsworth. Oh, okay. The thing is, the winner of the Royal Rumble gets a main event match at WrestleMania. It doesn't say that it has to be for one of the two main titles. That's traditionally just what they do. So feasibly, you could do something that I have suggested for years, especially with the Money in the Bank. I don't normally suggest this with the Rumble, but you have that person pick a tag team partner and go for the world tag titles in the main event of WrestleMania.
I like that.
So I'm just spitballing here. I'm just having some fun with ideas. So let's go ahead and move on. We got a couple more stories to get through. And they're both about the deal struck and how it affects AEW. So from Ringside News, AEW could lose HBO Max as Netflix Warner Brothers Discovery deal puts streaming future in doubt. AEW's long-term streaming situation is suddenly far less certain, and the fallout from a massive media deal could force the company into a risky new home. Netflix is moving forward with an $82.7 billion acquisition. Oh, now I know who's buying all the tickets at Raw. Involving Warner Brothers Discovery studio assets, including HBO and HBO Max. The deal is expected to close in the third quarter of 2025, pending regulatory approval. While the numbers are staggering, the key issue for AEW is simple. Sports programming is not part of what Netflix is buying. Meltzer laid out the full picture on Wrestling Observer Radio, explaining exactly how the deal is structured and why AEW is caught in the middle. So Netflix sent out a release basically saying, we have purchased the company. WBD's board of directors approved the Netflix deal again. It was an $82.7 billion deal, but only for the studios. HBO Max, nothing else, right? So all the stations would stay with Warner Brothers Discovery and their new company, which would also get all the debt. The distinction is critical. Meltzer explained that because HBO Max under Netflix would not include sports, AEW could lose its current streaming platform entirely. The timetable right now is that it's going to Netflix pending regulatory approval, and the feeling is that it will be closed in the third quarter of this year, so like in the fall. That would be the time where we're going to know, most importantly, the AEW streaming situation. Real quick before I continue this, I do want to say that they've already started bleeding content over between Netflix and HBO Max. Stuff that you typically only see on HBO Max is appearing on Netflix and vice versa. If AEW is pushed off HBO Max, the likely landing spot would be Warner Brothers Discovery's upcoming TNT Sports app, a platform that would launch without an established audience. Are they going to stay on HBO Max, or is HBO Max, which is not taking any of the sports programming, not going to take them, and then they will have to start basically on the TNT Sports app? That is going to be done, but that's going to start with like 0 subscribers. Meltzer contrasted that scenario with AEW's current reach, noting how much leverage the company would lose overnight. He then explained why keeping AEW's television streaming and pay-per-view rights under one roof is crucial for maintaining value. As far as AEW is concerned, this has about 58 million subscribers in the United States. They have a lot more worldwide, but their deal is only United States. If the new company, which is all the TV stations and also would have TNT Sports as AEW, by having that, they would be getting the pay-per-view rights to the AEW product and the streaming rights to the product. So it would all be in one company. That unified structure, Meltzer said, keeps AEW's value intact, even if it even if budgets and priorities change. The danger comes if AEW's rights are split between different companies. In that case, television partners would judge AEW almost entirely on linear ratings. So the value of AEW to that one company would be the same. It's just a question of that company and how much it can spend and things like that. If it was split, the value of AEW to the new TV company is just based on their television ratings alone, which are not great right now. Meltzer stressed that his problem isn't unique to AEW, pointing out that the modern rating system has hurt everybody. Obviously, the new system has killed them as it's killed everyone. It's hurt SmackDown badly. It's hurt NXT the worst of all. Still, Meltzer left the door open to one potential upside. Negotiating separate deals with multiple companies could theoretically result in more money overall. It could also be that now you're negotiating with two separate companies, and maybe the deals with each separate company might end up being more than with one company. For now, nothing is finalized. Paramount has reportedly submitted a competing bid, and regulatory approval is still months away. But once the deal closes, AEW's streaming fate could change fast and not necessarily in its favor. Real quick before I jump over to the last article we have, which is related to this, I just want to point out that I said this, but I don't see any reason for this to actually be a problem. I thought it would be, but if you have Netflix already guaranteed to buy this part, that leaves this part in the wind. Why can't Paramount just go after that? But we're going to jump right into that next story, and then we'll discuss it. Paramount launches the legal fight to take over AEW's television and streaming partners, Warner Brothers Discovery. AEW's long-term streaming future just took another major twist as Paramount has launched a full-blown offensive to block Netflix from acquiring Warner Brothers Discovery's studio assets, a deal that could directly threaten AEW's presence on HBO Max. So apparently, at the end of the day, everything that's happening could affect AEW's presence. In a dramatic escalation, Paramount CEO David Ellison issued a blistering public letter to Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders on January 12, 2026, confirming the company will nominate its own directors, file a lawsuit, and formally challenge the Netflix acquisition. Paramount is pushing forward with a $30 per share all-cash offer, which they insist is superior to Netflix's complicated $82.7 billion studio deal. All right, hold on. Before I go any further, Netflix is offering $82.7 billion lump sum, right? And Paramount's coming in with a $30 per share offer, and they're saying that an $82.7 billion lump sum is more confusing than a $30 per share cash payment. What drugs are you on, Paramount? You're one of my favorite platforms, but are you freaking kidding me with this? All right, let me continue. Sorry. Warner Brothers Discovery has provided increasingly novel reasons for avoiding a transaction with Paramount, Ellison wrote. But what it has never said, because it cannot, is that the Netflix transaction is financially superior to our actual offer. This update, I guess Ellison realizes that, this update is massive for AEW under the Netflix deal. Sports programming, including AEW, would be excluded from the HBO Max platform. As previously reported, that could force AEW onto the unproven TNT Sports app, which would launch without an existing subscriber base. Paramount's bid, on the other hand, could keep AEW's television, pay-per-view, and streaming rights housed under one stable umbrella. Ellison made it clear that Paramount will not back down, stating the company has filed a lawsuit in Delaware Chancery Court demanding Warner Brothers Discovery disclose key financial details about the Netflix transaction. Paramount will also propose bylaw changes to block the separation of Warner Brothers Discovery's global networks, a move seen as a direct effort to protect TNT, TBS, and AEW programming from being spun off or siloed. We filed suit this morning so that Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders have what they need to be able to make an informed decision, the letter reads. If successful, Paramount's takeover could dramatically shift AEW's media strategy and preserve its exposure across TNT, TBS, and a unified streaming home. The outcome of this corporate battle could reshape not just AEW's digital future, but the media landscape surrounding pro wrestling as a whole. Okay. Listen. I'm trying to understand this. First off, Paramount says that the $82.7 billion is more complicated than their $30 per share, but then Ellison admits that technically the $82.7 is a better financial deal. But then we go on and we realize, wait, Netflix is only buying this part of it. That leaves the rest of this available. Why can't we just work out a deal where Paramount just goes, you know what, we'll just buy the rest of it. You know, the rest of what's available will be great, and that'll give us sports programming and other stuff. I don't understand why you have to make this so complicated. I don't see the real complication here. I see a pretty easy decision. We buy this, you buy this, everybody gets something, and they win, and they're all happy. Styles, can you help me out here?
I got this. I'll use Iron Man terms in this one. The parents are divorcing and they're fighting over what they're going to get with a profitable advancement or a financial loss. When you're talking about the 83 billion versus the $30 of streaming services, plus the purchases of every bit of digital content, you're going to have yourself a shit show because they're going to be battling over what they can see as a moneymaker in terms of content versus what will be expendable. Honestly, I would buy the entire library for reasons known because you're going to need all of that to promote the sports and entertainment, pro wrestling, whatever you may want to call it. If there's anything I hate more, though, it is the new digital era that we know is streaming. Because if we've been talking about this show after show after show, how complicated things have become, especially to a company like AEW. We all know AEW can be sometimes of a mud show, and with its hardcore style wrestling taking it beyond the extreme, it's no longer all elite wrestling, it's all extreme wrestling. So you got to balance what you really want on your platform versus what you don't. So if we're going to see Darby Allin getting his head decapitated with a fish tank, we might not put that into the contract where someone wants to watch that. We want to go back to when AEW was AEW. So knowing them, Paramount, if they get it like they want to, we're going to take 2019 all the way up to say like 2023 when AEW started fizzling away. They get that that 2.5, 3/4 worth of content versus we can watch the rest of this way like it never existed. But people are going to always say, what happened to this content? It's going to probably end up on, say, HBO Max or Netflix or wherever else. Most of the time it ends up in the YouTube vault for AEW. So in a way, anything archived, that's going to be one thing. But when it comes to wanting to watch a live show of AEW, that's going to become very complicated because we don't know if we're going to be watching it in the future or if it's just going to be properly recorded content for us to watch at a later date. So it's going to be really rough for AEW right now. This feels like the Time Warner AOL Time Warner 2001 WCW going out of business, where Eric Bischoff was not even in the arena and he was via telephone conference explaining what's going on with the company and when it's going to end. So AEW is just in a shitload of debacle with how they're going to be purchased by other streaming platforms. And dude, it's just like with TKO being in a debt with the WWE and how they're going to make all their money back. AEW is just struggling to find a platform that's going to take them and they're going to be able to be watched and talked about. So it's a good time to be a wrestling fan, but it's also a weird time to be a wrestling fan because all these platforms are starting to take over what we call TV. You put WWE back on some kind of network, say USA again, and then you take AEW and you put it back on TNT or TBS. Give us some wars that we can watch, and instead of trying to split and branch everything out. Look what happened with the WWE. TKO has the WWE going live at like 3 p.m. and on a Monday, where we're used to watching at 8, 9 o'clock at night, or you go to watch SmackDown at like 6 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, and it's like an hour and a half instead of 3 because we're going to do European cuts or something like that. It's just I don't know. It just the digital era is taking over, it's going to start screwing things up. It's going to become a contractual agreement to a disagreement. It's going to become breach of contract, breach of trust, and you're just going to see companies start to fall apart because of it. And I mean, we're already there, but I'll be honest, I think it's going to get much worse.
Yeah. All right. We got to take care of a couple things real quick before we call it a night. First off, I'm going to let Styles talk about his part of what's going on because I feel like it's his business to share with you guys, not mine.
All right, so er, I mean, there's many ways I can explain this. I've been dealing with it for years. I had a procedure done back in August on one side. I had this hand operated on for years. I've been dealing with carpal tunnel syndrome, and luckily this hand has been fixed. But this hand has been showing a lot of signs of wear and tear. I got to get this done. It's probably going, from what the doctor says. So when they're done, I got to wear a bandage for at least 2 to 3 weeks, and then I got to wear a sleeve. I'll be wearing stitches inside, so I won't be able to function type with this hand because it's going to be completely covered. So at least 3 weeks to a month, I won't have a full hand to work with. I won't be able to type much with. As a matter of fact, I won't be able to do anything with it, including the wooden D. Just kidding, Max. Don't get excited. But
You could use a break from that anyway, you pervert.
yes, I know. I'll send it to you and you can have it.
Oh, no. I appreciate the offer, but you keep that shit at your house.
But yeah, I'm going to be getting surgery. This whole hand's going to be jacked up for at least a month. Well, more than that, but it's about 3 to 6 months for the halfway recovery. It's a full year for full strength, but it's not like I'm going to be doing anything then. But I'm going to give it a month's tops. I'm hoping it heals up a whole lot faster. This one took about less than a month and a half to feel better. But I still deal with pain from time to time, but it's not too bad. It's more like muscle pain than it is nerves. This hand has been falling asleep. I can't even game the way I used to because of it. So there's a whole lot of games I want to play. I picked one up today for the Super Nintendo. If you've played this, Urban Strike, such a great game. I want to play that down the road, and I want to play that on Kick. So, I decided to get it done this month so that way I can heal up by summertime. So when my son comes up here for the summer, I have two working hands because when he comes up, we're going back to the gym. I'm getting my gains back because let me tell you, I actually lost my muscle all because of the surgery. So this right here is going to put me on the sidelines for a little. And so far I've been having the time of my life with these boys. Let me tell you, we have a good old time talking wrestling, talking news, and talking trash with each other because that's what we live for. And I can't wait. Give me about a month, y'all, and I'll give you updates along the way. Let everyone know how things are going. I'll definitely talk about it as much as I can in the Ramblers Unleashed Discord. Find me on Instagram because that's all you're really going to find me on anymore. I'm not a social media butterfly anymore, so I got away from a lot of that. So once I'm 100% able to use this the way I want to, the way I see it, I'll be back in action. Until then, it'll be Max and Baron taking over and doing what they do best, kicking ass, taking names, and talking wrestling news. But for everyone else that's here, I mean, I appreciate everyone's love and support. I appreciate you guys having me on the team as well. I can't wait to return here in the near future. And I can't wait until we talk some 8-Bit Unleashed as well. So it's going to be one hell of a time. We definitely got to do 8-Bit Unleashed before I go under the knife. So
I will see what I can do. I make no promises with everything.
Hey, no promises, but hey, if we can pull it off, we can. If not,
Wrestle Realm 316, welcome. We appreciate your presence. Tonight's going to be a slightly shorter show than normal. Unfortunately, we're actually in the process of wrapping up, but we appreciate you coming in. And hopefully, we'll see you again in the future. And while Styles is out, Baron and I plan to still be here bringing you content. And who knows, we may have people swing by from time to time. The other situation is I have some upcoming overnights at work. We're doing some upgrades on the stores I'm a tech for. I have to be at my sites by 8:30 p.m. my time for those nights, which most nights that will not be a very big deal. However, our first confirmed Tuesday night is going to be February 10th. Unfortunately, as of right now, there's probably not going to be a show that night. I know, but Max, why are you telling us a month in advance? That's so there will be no surprises, Courtney, when I tell you again the week before, okay? See, it's 10:30 my time. I'm getting ready to head to bed, Russell.
The other side of the world, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for Ramblers Unleashed tonight. Until next time, Silas, you just told everybody how they can find you. Instagram, the Discord.
Yep,
If you're not
Instagram,
following
Discord.
this man, do.
Yeah, and if you have Kick, follow me under that name right there. Well, not that name right there, but the name I put in the chat up there, Deactivated Styles. You can find me on there. You'll catch me playing retro games, quite a few modern games here and there. But I'm an OG, loving to play, blowing into the cart, and get my ass kicked in Mario and Tetris and all that good stuff. So yeah, feel free to find me there. And then Max, let them know.
Oh yeah. You can find me at Max Magus for the wrestling podcast. You can find my nerd podcast at Our Shots Podcast. Sorry, I was pulling something up. You can find this show at Is this right? That can't be
I don't
right.
know, is it?
Yes. Ooh, I think I'll go to the notifications and read this off instead, because that's... you can find this show at The Ramblers Pod on Twitter. You can listen to my other show, Random Shots, anywhere you can find your wrestling or your podcast, Prime, all that. Or check us out at random-shots.net. But as always, thank you for tuning in. We enjoy having you guys around, and we will see you next week.
All right, have a good night, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in to Ramblers Unleashed. Follow the show on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click the bell icon for notifications of upcoming episodes.
Yeah, you still all made the list.